Okay, my friends, let me make my position 1,000% clear. No U.S. boots on the ground whatsoever. Absolutely not. No way. As I said on X last night, this is slowly starting to turn into another Iraq. A protracted conflict, a quagmire with now no exit strategy. And so, I oppose the war. And after what I heard yesterday from the President of the United States, along with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, my fears are only being heightened. Not calmed, but heightened. So, here is now the absolute latest. President Trump gave a wide-ranging interview to several media outlets. And what he told them was that initially the plan was, and this is what my understanding was, that this Operation Epic Fury, as it's being called, this bombing campaign to degrade the Iranian regime, to destroy their nuclear weapons capability once and for all, their ballistic missile program once and for all, their Navy once and for all, their enrichment capability once and for all, would take maybe 3 to 4 days, a week maximum. Now they're telling us, according to Trump, this is going to last at least 4 to 5 weeks and maybe even longer. So the goalposts are moving. And not only now is this going to be a much longer war than initially we were told, but this to me is the most troubling part of all. President Trump, when pressed about putting boots on the ground, U.S. soldiers, U.S. forces on the ground in Iran, said that he now is considering it and he will do it if necessary. He will not rule out putting boots on the ground. He has now opened the door for putting U.S. soldiers in harm's way in Iran to either overthrow the Ayatollah regime once and for all, or to maybe give assistance to the Iranian pro-democracy movement if they seek to take back their government and take back their country. Now, as I said, this is what's called mission creep. This is where the objectives keep getting broader and broader, more open-ended, and without clearly defined objectives. As this thing now keeps expanding and expanding and expanding, eventually you start getting sucked in. And what started off as a limited military air and sea campaign is now becoming a regime change war. And now this regime change war is evolving into potentially boots on the ground. Now, there is no way that the American people are going to support putting U.S. troops on the ground in Iran for many reasons. We got burned in Afghanistan, we got burned in Iraq, and we are going to get burned again in Iran. Iran is not Iraq, it's not even Afghanistan. It is a large country, 92 million people, full of mountains. Its landscape is tailor-made for an insurgency or guerrilla war. God forbid if the regime completely and utterly dissolves and there is a vacuum, anarchy, chaos, in which our troops will then be inserted to try to restore order and stability. They will be sitting ducks. And American boys and girls, our men and women, are going to start coming home in body bags. And so when I heard boots on the ground, my reaction right away is absolutely not. No way. Absolutely not. This is not what the American people voted for. Overwhelmingly now, the polls show, A, they're against the war in Iran. They're not rallying to the flag, as people were hoping. But when it comes to sending our troops in, our soldiers, and to put them now, not just from the air, from the sea, and devastating missile strikes, But to actually send in the Marines or the U.S. Army as a combat force, there is overwhelming opposition. If Trump goes down this road, and I hope to God he doesn't, I am telling you, the anti-war movement will surge. You will see an anti-war movement like you have never seen before in this country. And it's not just going to be from the Democrats. It's not just going to be from the left. You're going to see many on the right as well. It will split MAGA. I believe it will split it decisively. And the president now will crack his coalition and he will get slaughtered in the midterm elections. So I would have walked that back. I understand he wants to keep all his options open. He always likes to have maximum latitude, especially now in the midst of a war. He doesn't want to close off any possibility. I understand that. But I would have not even touched the issue of boots on the ground. I would have just said, we're not there yet. As far as things right now, we're doing so well with this operation. There's no need to even talk about boots on the ground. Instead, he clearly opened that door. And now that he opened that door, it's going to be creep. It's mission creep. Creep. So notice, every time a day goes by, the objectives get a little broader, a little more ambitious, and as I said, they keep moving the goalposts. And after a while, you're going to end up seeing, if we're not careful, a full engagement, an all-out war in which we will be forced to put troops on the ground. Now, this is why I believe, and I want to be very clear about this, I believe that if Trump now wants a 4, 5, 6, 7-week war, if this is going to last over a month, 6 weeks, whatever, with the potential use of U.S. ground forces, we need to have a debate in this country through our elected representatives, and the American people must have their say and their voice must be respected. We should have a vote in Congress on a declaration of war or an authorization for war if the president now, we're no longer talking about a 3-day operation or even what we saw last year, a 12-day operation where we're just hitting Iran from the sky and then after 10 days, 12 days, and we come back home. We're talking now about a protracted, extensive military campaign that's now going to go on for at least a month and a half, maybe even more, with the possibility of U.S. boots on the ground. Congress, there needs to be a debate in Congress. We need to have a national debate, and we need to then have a vote. Everybody now needs to be stand up and be accounted. Are you for this or are you against it? And we need to do this for 2 reasons. Number one, we are still a self-governing country, a constitutional republic, a representative democracy. That means we get a say over what our leaders do. And especially when it comes to life and death and a major regime change war that is going to have massive implications, not just across the Middle East, but here in the United States of America, where our troops are now being asked to die for this cause. 6 now, the death toll has now risen to 6. And the body count is going to get higher and higher and higher. So we owe it to ourselves to have a say in whether this is a good policy, a bad policy, a good mission, a bad mission, a good war, a bad war. And that's done through Congress and an authorization for a war in Congress. The second point, I generally always believe that presidents should go to Congress if they want to go to war for another reason, and that's political. If things go south in Iran, Okay, and right now they look like they're going extremely well. This is almost a flawless military campaign. But that's today. That's yesterday. That may not be tomorrow or the next week. Or if this thing becomes a protracted quagmire, then Trump will bear all the blame. But if he goes through Congress and gets an authorization, well, then Congress will also be held accountable. Individual members of Congress will be held accountable. Republicans, Democrats will be held accountable. If the war goes well, they'll be held accountable. If the war goes badly, they'll be held accountable. This way, the person now assuming all of the burden, whether it's good or bad, all of the responsibility, whether it's good or bad, is President Trump. Okay, Trump now yesterday, just some very quick developments, and I promise I want to go to the phone lines. 617-266-6868. Both President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that apparently for the mullahs, and I really wouldn't want to be them right now. I mean, they are taking a pounding. Apparently, though, the largest wave of the attack hasn't even occurred yet. Trump is telling the Ayatollahs, he's telling the Iranian leadership, we want to warn you, but we're going to hit you much harder with something much heavier and much more devastating. And there's a lot of speculation now on what exactly they're going to do and what targets they're going to hit. But they are now looking to absolutely decimate the entire military infrastructure of Iran, in particular, just so that you understand what their goals are. And their goals, if they complete this, they will completely gut the Iranian regime. I mean, there will be practically nothing left for them. They want to annihilate their navy, and they're on their way to doing that. They want to utterly destroy their entire nuclear program, their entire nuclear weapons program, the remnants of it, wipe it, obliterate it. They want to shatter and annihilate their entire ballistic missile program. So effectively, by the time they are done, Iran will have no ballistic missiles. They will have no navy. And this is important because the navy is how you can block the Strait of Hormuz. The navy is how you can project power across the entire Middle East. The navy is key to them arming, say, their proxies like Hezbollah or Hamas or the Houthis. So they will have no navy, no ballistic missiles, no nuclear program. Their entire nuclear enrichment program as well will be smashed to pieces. This will now be a crippled regime. Even if they survive, they will be clinging by their fingernails just to stay in power once they are done after 4 to 5 weeks. The regime now is lashing out in desperation, and I believe they're making a fatal mistake. I mean, they've made several fatal mistakes, but this could be the nail in their coffin, as they say. They are now attacking potential allies or neighboring countries that initially opposed the U.S.-Israeli bombing campaign. They're hitting Kuwait. They're hitting United Arab Emirates. They're hitting Bahrain. They're hitting Qatar. And it's one thing if they were just hitting U.S. bases. They could say, well, we're being attacked. We have the right to attack back. They're not doing that. They're so stupid. They're hitting hotels. They're hitting civilian apartments. They're hitting civilian neighborhoods. And so what this is now doing, it is whipping up anger and opposition to the Ayatollahs in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in the United Arab Emirates, across all the Gulf states and the Gulf nations. So now the region is turning on the mullahs because in their desperation, frankly, in their stupidity, they're just lashing out and just, launching drones and missile attacks wildly, desperately, and they're killing civilians and targeting civilian areas, which, by the way, is a war crime. the Iranians are committing war crimes. And of course, now they are launching missiles into Israel. Israel has the Iron Dome. They're intercepting many of these missiles. Some, however, are getting through, and Israelis now are beginning to die. Furthermore, the war is expanding. Hezbollah now has launched a rocket attack. They now plan, they say, a potential invasion of Israel. Israel, in response now, is attacking and striking deep into southern Lebanon. So Lebanon now is potentially being dragged into this war. Our embassy in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, was attacked by Iranian drones. It was burned to the ground. They attacked it, razed it to the ground, explosions, but God willing, there were no one there. We had evacuated that embassy, so there were no casualties whatsoever. No Americans were killed. But the point is, the war is heating up. It is getting more intense by the minute, by the hour, by the day. Now, the most important thing to look for are the streets of Tehran. Are the people rising up? Are protesters and demonstrators pouring onto the streets? Right now, I'm just going by media reports. They say the streets remain empty. People are holed up in bunkers. They are afraid to come out. And although the Iranian leadership has been decapitated and many of them have been killed, there are, for at least for now, there are no cracks emerging in the regime. There are no major defections. The military seems to be standing behind the Ayatollah. The Basij, the paramilitary force, is not defecting. So far, and it's only 3 days, but it does not appear that they are revolting or defecting or abandoning the regime. Trump and Bibi are hoping that this will change over the next week or two. Okay, the question before the House. 2 questions. Number one, Trump says this war, believes, will last maybe 4 to 5 weeks. He says could be even longer. If you want, I'll play you the cut. He says no matter how long it takes, whatever it takes, he is determined to win this war, to achieve victory. And victory for him is to utterly dismantle and degrade, demolish Iran's nuclear military infrastructure. At a bare minimum, he would like regime change, but it doesn't have to be regime change. At a bare minimum, he wants Iran's regime militarily gutted, absolutely gutted and neutered, and he believes this will be done in about 4 to 5 weeks. So, what do you make? Do you support a campaign that will last at least a month and maybe even longer? Or do you fear now this is becoming slowly but surely an open-ended campaign? Secondly, I talk about, Ukraine. I mentioned Ukraine and Iraq. Ukraine, where you start off giving a little, then you give a little more, then you give a little more, then you give a little more. We're starting to see a little bit of this mission creep. Trump now, for the first time, he's not saying he's going to send troops to Iran, but he did say, if necessary, I will use ground troops. He said, if necessary, I have not ruled it out. If I need to, I will put boots on the ground. So he's not saying he will, obviously, but he's not saying he won't. That's for sure. My question to you, do you support the United States putting boots on the ground in order to overthrow the Iranian regime or to help the Iranian resistance overthrow the mullahs? Or is that for you a red line? I'm telling you right now, I am dead set against boots on the ground. I said it on X last night. I'm saying it now. Not a single American soldier should be sent to Iran. Absolutely not. But that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Maestro Mike, who would you like me to go to first? Mel in Saratoga in upstate New York. Mel, we haven't heard from you in a while. It's great to hear from you. Welcome.
Yes, you as well, Jeff. My question is that, those who came across the border at the direction of Joe Biden, surge the border. I feel as though, I wonder if this does become a long, protracted war where that would require boots on the ground. What about all the Julios who came across the border? Are they going to be forced to put on a uniform and go fight? There's our fighting force right there, millions of them. And if not, I think you'll see a mass deportation, self-deportation, if they are mandated to put on a uniform and go fight over there in Iran. As far as I'm concerned, this is the United States of Israel. I really think that we are beholden to Israel when they have all the technology and all the weaponry to defend themselves. Why can't they fight this war on their own? But no, I'm not in support of any boots on the ground, and I can't see the why. I just can't see why we're there. If we can give some air support or something in that regard, keep it to that nature, yeah. But if it requires boots on the ground, you get all these illegals that came across this border. Hey, now you want to be here? Now here's your chance to prove it.
Mel, look, that's the checkmate argument. You just made the checkmate argument, and you'll see not one illegal will want to go serve in Iran. I mean, there's no, which goes to show you they're not here to contribute or to give, or to help the United States. They're here to take. No, look, they're here to take our jobs, and they're here to take our welfare. That's what they're here for. And if we said to them, I'll tell you what, here, you get amnesty. All you got to do now is sign up for the U.S. military. We want to send you off to Iran. Basic training, and here's a gun, and off to Iran. They're all going to flee. They're all going to head back. So it's obvious they're not here to make this country better. They're here to take. And Biden let them in. And look, Mel, you touched on Israel. This is a question I've been asking myself since this war began. And, it's funny because, who was it? I met somebody yesterday. Oh, it was my doctor. I met my doctor. I went for my annual checkup. And so I met my doctor, and we were just chatting, and, and we had bumped into each other several days ago at the grocery store. And so I said, it's funny. On Friday, we were not at war. On Monday, meaning yesterday, we're now at war. Like, it's within 48 to 72 hours, I just saw you before the weekend, and we were not at war. And within 48 to 72 hours, we're now at war. And he just said to me, I didn't look at it that way, but it's true. It's like it just came out of nowhere. I know if you were reading the news pages, you were seeing a buildup and a buildup and a buildup and a buildup. But, it wasn't really actively covered. The media wasn't showcasing it very much. We had the State of the Union. We had so many other issues going on. So it caught the whole country by surprise. And now, all of a sudden, we're in the midst of this huge war with Iran, a massive regional war. And the stakes could not be higher. And I thought at the very least, President Trump, primetime address, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, would address the nation. I know he's held press conferences. I know he's spoken to reporters, but I'm talking about a 9 o'clock primetime, 11, 12, 15-minute address on all the major networks. Here is why I have made the decision to commit our Air Force, our men and women, our Navy, to join with Bibi Netanyahu in order to degrade and potentially overthrow the Ayatollahs. He hasn't done that. I don't understand why. I think it's a mistake. I think it's why the opinion polls are not as high as they should be, because I think a lot of people are confused about what his goals are. because frankly, the administration, I don't think, has done a good job in their messaging and laying out exactly what is the goal. Okay, is the goal just to get rid of the nuclear weapons program? Oh, no. Is it regime change? No. What is it? Hegseth said yesterday it was retribution. He said that was one of the reasons to pay him back for the last 47 years. So it's retribution, it's their nuclear weapons program, ballistic missiles, and or overthrow the regime. Or maybe a little bit of both, or who knows. So what I'm saying is their objectives have not been clearly stated, and you're taking a country to war, us, in which you don't have the American people behind you, and you don't have the full approval and authorization of Congress. And the whole time I'm saying, you know, if Israel is convinced that the mullahs are an existential threat to the Israeli state, take them out. Go ahead. I mean, I really mean this. God bless you. Take them out. You've got the best intelligence service in the world. You've got one of the finest, most lethal militaries in the world, an incredibly professional military. Guys, have at it. Take them out. And you can go to Saudi Arabia and these other Sunni states and say, maybe let's form an anti-Iran alliance and, you know, let's work together. And instead, it's always us. We're always doing the heavy lifting. And I'm just telling you, Mel, there is no appetite for war. I know many Trump supporters are backing him. I get it. But across the country, just look at the opinion polls. There is no appetite for another war. And Trump campaigned on no new wars. And now he's put us maybe in the mother of all new wars. And that's my fear, that politically now this could come back to haunt him and hurt him. Mel, thank you very much for that call, as always. 617-266-6868 is the number. That's why, if we're going to be in it for this long, and we're looking at 5-6 weeks, and by the way, we're going to spend a lot of money on this. This is not going to be cheap. And potentially introducing ground troops, Congress needs to vote on this. The American people have to have their say. Okay, President Trump now says this campaign will go on much longer than a couple days or 1 week. He says he anticipates at least 4 to 5 weeks. He says maybe even longer if necessary. He also now is claiming, or throwing down the gauntlet rather, saying he will do whatever it takes, but that the mullahs are going to be finally reined in. Their nuclear ambitions will be shattered. They will never be able to get a nuclear bomb, and they will not have the ballistic missiles to deliver any kind of a nuclear weapon. And if this campaign takes a month or 2 months, it doesn't matter. He's also warning the Iranians that the worst is yet to come. He says, we're not bluffing. We're telling you, you're going to be hit much harder with much bigger weapons in the next couple of days. So the world is bracing. The Iranians are bracing for exactly what we're about to unleash. It is going to be fire and fury. And on top of that, President Trump, huge news yesterday, said he will not rule out putting boots on the ground. He said, if necessary, I will send in U.S. soldiers to either topple the Ayatollahs or to help the resistance overthrow the Ayatollahs. If need be, I am not afraid to send in U.S. ground troops. So, my question to you, what do you make now of this longer time frame? Do you fear we are heading towards a protracted conflict, or do you believe in 4 or 5 weeks, basically the mullahs will be ground to dust? That after 4 or 5 weeks, they will be so shattered and so broken that even if they survive, they are going to be a shell of their former selves. They will no longer pose a threat to the region, to the world, and there'll be no need to send in ground troops because the Iranian regime will be so weakened and so decimated. And do you support sending ground troops into Iran? I say absolutely not. No way. Hell no. But that's me. I want to hear from the great audience of Kuhner Country. Harry in Maine. Thanks for holding, Harry, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, good morning.
Hi, Harry.
Jeff, first of all, I want to tell you right now, there's no way you're a traitor. We can have different opinions, Jeff. There's no way you're a traitor. So I don't know what you're getting as far as direct messages from Mark Levin or Jennings, but you're not a traitor. That's your opinion, and you're entitled to it. You're an American citizen, Jeff. So I don't agree with you on everything.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Harry. You wouldn't believe the vicious attacks I'm getting. But anyway, that's okay. That's life. But thank you, Harry. I really appreciate it. Go ahead, Harry.
I want to clean up on aisle 7, if you will, okay? All right. Well, let me answer your poll question first. Absolutely no boots on the ground. I highly doubt that'll ever happen here, Jeff. Trump has always used intimidation as one of his means and one of his strategy. Look at how long it took for the buildup of those ships coming into the Gulf and surrounding Iran, and then the buildup, the massive buildup, and that was an intimidation tactic, okay? And he's always been candid with the reporters, but at the same time, they ask him these pointed questions that they would never be able to ask a Joe Biden or Obama or anybody else. They wouldn't answer them. But he always leaves all his options, as you said, on the table. And I don't think he's doing anything more than that. And I totally agree with you. No boots on the ground. And if they're going to do that, they've got to go to Congress and they've got to get approval. As far as the timeline, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 weeks, maybe 2 or 3 months. I think his strategy is, as you said, he's going to decimate them to the point that they're going to yell uncle. Period, end of story. But he's already come out, Jeff, and told the Iranian people that they're on their own. What they got to take it from here. He keeps using that type of language. The only question I have is what will they use to affect that purpose? Because they don't have the weapons. So that remains to be seen. But I do not believe that he'll put ground troops on the ground. But I want to just say a couple of things. You opened your show yesterday, and I did take exception to something. You know, Jeff, in a battle, when a bullet or a missile hits an unintended target and it hits your own troops, they refer to that as friendly fire. And that whole schoolhouse that got blown up with the missile, in my opinion, that was an unintended target. It was not a war crime. I think that's a little strong, and that's the language you use. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't consider that a war crime. If they deliberately attack a citizen or a schoolhouse or a public facility and they know it in advance and they go ahead and do it anyway, that to me would be a war crime. I couldn't agree more. I also think this Jim from New Hampshire called yesterday, and he said that Tucker Carlson crushed Huckabee. I listened to that entire interview. He didn't crush Huckabee. I thought Huckabee was pretty eloquent in his responses when he didn't get rudely cut off. But just a couple of things about Tucker Carlson. I'll be brief on this. I'll give you 4 points. And I followed Tucker, and I like Tucker, and I subscribe to his network, which I'm going to cancel. But let that go for a minute. He had Colonel McGregor on 3 or 4 years ago when the war in Ukraine started, and I've called you on this before, he said that war would be over in 3 weeks. He subsequently has McGregor on, and he's never challenged him on that comment about being over in 3 weeks. He had the Green Beret guy, Tony Aguilar, on whining about a 10-year-old kid in Palestine that got killed, like days after he interviewed this kid, befriended this little kid. It came out 3 weeks later. It was all a scam. Tony Aguilar should be ashamed of himself. The little boy was found. He was fine. They interviewed him. Tucker Carlson never doubled back on that. His response when Huckabee brought that up was prove that he's alive. Come on, give me a break. That had already been vetted. Then he had Nick Fuentes on, who idolized Hitler and Stalin and Lenin. Never challenged him, but he beat up on Huckabee and he beat up on Ted Cruz. He had no problem with that. And another point I'll give you, he made this comment, Jeff. He said that Israel was the most violent nation in the world. I think we can argue against that. I don't think Israel is the most violent nation in the world, but we'll let that go. But the final thing I wanted to wrap up with was that people got to realize, yes, MAGA, this is not about MAFA. Everyone keeps coming back to Make America First again. He ran on Make America Great Again. And when I consider making America great again, it's all inclusive. It's not relegated just to the domestic issues of the country. It's everything. How we stand in the world, how that world standing impacts us here at home. So it's not restricted to just inside of the continuous 50 states in Hawaii, in Alaska. It's not. And I want to see if you can help me on this point, Jeff. In 2020, leading up to the election, just as we get hit with COVID, what would you say the state of the United States economy was at that time?
Oh, it was booming. It was incredible. I've never seen an economy like this in 40 years. And Trump was on his way to a crushing election victory, just on the economy alone.
2020, but COVID. Where did COVID come from, Jeff?
It came from China.
Okay. Don't think for a minute that this isn't payback to China. And Trump's doing it very tactfully. Very tactfully. I love what he's doing here. First of all, he took out Maduro, and he killed 2 or 3 birds with one stone. He hit Maduro. That guy's a crook. He brought him in. He was under indictment anyway. They had warrants out for his arrest. But he hurt, and by taking him out, they hurt the cartels. Who benefits from the exports of the oils from Venezuela, Jeff?
Well, the Chinese do get some of the exports. No, I see what you're saying. You're saying basically, Harry, that he's going after some of these client states or proxies of China. And Iran clearly is part of that axis, and Venezuela. So he's hurting China by going after both Venezuela, Maduro, and now Iran. I hear you. No, look, Harry, look, there's no question China is our biggest enemy. I just want to go back to a couple things that you said about Tucker Carlson. Look, I think Tucker Carlson has committed professional suicide. You want my honest opinion? I thought he was excellent on January 6th. I thought he was a straight shooter on January 6th. And I think that's the reason why they fired him from Fox. Okay? I'm not going to retreat from that because it's true. He's now become not just an Israel hater, but he's clearly now flirting with anti-Semitism. And he can deny it till the cows come home. When you have Nick Fuentes on, who is an avowed neo-Nazi, an avowed Jew hater, an avowed white supremacist, an admirer of both Hitler and Stalin. And just so that people know, he's now an avowed enemy of Trump. Nick Fuentes is calling for Trump to be defeated in November, for the Democrats to take back power, and for the Democrats to not just impeach Trump, but his entire cabinet. That's Nick Fuentes. And you have him on your show? Now, look, you can have whoever you want on your show. It's a free country. But, and you wouldn't even challenge him? And you're laughing and you're giggling? And I'll tell you something else, Harry, and everybody has missed this. Okay, everybody's missed this. Because they're saying, well, why don't you challenge him on his admiration for Hitler? Why don't you challenge him on his admiration for Stalin? Why don't you call him out on some of these other insane statements that he's made? And that's all true. But what people forget, Nick Fuentes insulted Tucker Carlson's father. Before he came on, he was openly mocking and ridiculing and insulting his father, basically spitting on his father. And Tucker Carlson still had him on. And he didn't even call him out on it. Now, look, maybe I'm too sensitive about these sort of things, Harry, when it comes to family. But maybe because I buried my dad, just over a year ago, and I still have a lot of memories of him, and the memories are still raw. But if you vilify and defame my father the way this guy did, F you. I'm not going to put you on my freaking show. Out of respect for my father, out of respect for me, my family name. And if I did have you on, I'd be like, I want an apology. You're going to apologize. My father didn't deserve this, and he's dead and he can't defend himself. You punk, you. So to me, on that point alone, look, I'm going to be honest. Where is Tucker? Look, I'm just calling it the way I see it. Where's Tucker Carlson's self-respect? Forget everything else, okay? As I like to say, let all the rest go. Let it go. Just let that go for a second. By the way, what is cool about Hitler? What, throwing 6 million Jews in the gas ovens? That's cool? causing a war that led to 50 million people dead? That's right. That's really hip. What's cool about Stalin? He says Stalin's birthday, there was an assassination attempt on him or whatever. He remembers it because it's Stalin's birthday, and he always celebrates Stalin's birthday because Stalin was a really cool guy. Tell me, was it the famine that killed 6 million Ukrainians? Is that the part that's cool? Is it the gulags in which he ground tens of millions of people to dust? Is it when he invaded and massacred the peoples of Eastern Europe, including my family? Tell me, tell me, when is it? Was it when my grandfather was put in a concentration camp for 3 years and almost beaten and starved and worked to death by the communists? Tell me, what's so cool? Nick, why don't you spend a day in a gulag? Let's see how long you last, tough guy. So, look, to me, he's a punk. He's a provocateur. He's a bomb thrower. Honestly, he's an idiot. Like, he's an idiot, okay? He's historically illiterate. He's an idiot. He's a guy with who read a few books, and he's got this crazy following because he says the most outrageous, outlandish things for clicks. Now, he wants to have him on. That's up to Tucker Carlson. But who's going to take you seriously after this? So when you allow a guy to come in there and mock your father and insult and revile your father, and you laugh and giggle with him, you got to screw loose, buddy. Okay? I'm just being honest. Now, to your larger point, look, Harry, I love this country. I really do. And of course, I want our troops to succeed. I don't want a single American troop to be killed. I hate the Ayatollahs. By the way, Israel is not the most violent government on earth. China is. Iran is a close second. I can name you many more. Okay, so for him to even say that shows you how he's gone off the deep end. But let that go. I want this war over because I fear, and I can see it now day by day, they keep moving the goalposts. This was going to be a limited strike. We're just going to take out the remnants of his nuclear program. That's how it started off. Now it's the entire ballistic program. Now it's the entire nuclear enrichment program. Now it's the entire Navy. Now it's regime change. Now it's maybe we have to help the opposition come to power. Now you've got here all of the Gulf nations now, even after being attacked by Iran. And these are all Sunni states. They hate the Shia. They hate the Iranians, have come out and issued a statement in solidarity asking America and Israel to stop their bombing campaign. Why? Because they love the mullahs? No. Because they fear if you break this regime, we're assuming that there's going to be this successor stable government that comes after. I'm not so sure. And to be honest, I don't think that the administration has thought this thing through. There's not going to be a stable successor regime. Very likely it's going to be like in Iraq. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be anarchy. It's going to be a vacuum. It could lead to the rise of a civil war and factionalism, which means millions and millions of migrants, refugees. They're going to pour across the entire Middle East, destabilizing the region. Everyone has high hopes for the Crown Prince. I hope he does succeed. I personally like the man. If I was living in Iran, I would vote for him. But there's a lot of opposition to the Crown Prince within Iran. Like, we're kidding ourselves if we think, he's going to be welcomed with 2 kisses on each cheek. Some love him, many hate him. He's still very, the Shah and the family of the Shah, very divided figure in Iran. So we're not thinking about the exit strategy. It's easy to start a war. It's very hard to end a war, especially once you've broken the regime. Now the country's in pieces. And who's going to fill that vacuum? Who knows? So, and I'm looking at something else, Harry. I'm looking at the radical left. I'm looking at what they want to do to us. I'm looking at the polls for the midterms. This war is not a popular war. I'm just telling you, that's just a fact. The longer it goes on, I fear Trump's support's going to erode and bleed even more. Gas prices are up, way up. If they continue to go up, remember, Trump's central promise, and God bless him, was low gasoline prices. He was starting now to really get gas down to the level he had it in his first term, which was a key reason why the economy was really booming. Now gas prices are starting to rise again. They're going to vote on the economy in the midterms. It's going to be a key reason, for why people vote and who they pick. If this undermines our economic recovery, if this sends oil up and inflation up, Harry, we're in big trouble. And when I heard him say 4 weeks, 5 weeks, maybe 2 months, 3 months, that takes us to the summer. November's going to be here quicker than we think. That's why I said to Mike when we were off air, I said, Mike, honestly, I'm praying for a quick knockout blow. I'm hoping this thing is over in a week. Like just, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And, you hit them hard, you degrade them, you dismantle them, and then you tell them, you want to negotiate now? You want to sign a couple of deals with full inspection, unfettered inspection? And, we put an end to your nuclear threat once and for all. But I fear the longer the war goes on, the more we're going to get sucked in. And after a while, it's not a question of what Trump wants or doesn't want. It's the logic and nature of war. You start limited, and then it kind of pulls you in and pulls you in and pulls you in. And before you know it, you're all in. And I don't want us to have to redo another Iraq. Iraq destroyed George W. Bush's presidency. Afghanistan destroyed Joe Biden's presidency. It was the way he withdrew, the debacle. If this is a long, protracted war, it will destroy Trump's presidency. And the moment he puts one boot on the ground, his presidency is over. And that's why I'm doing this show, and that's why I'm urging the administration. I know Trump wants to keep options open. I know he's playing 3D chess. I get it. He's using maximum leverage to get the Ayatollahs to come to the damn table and, basically cry uncle and sign a deal. But be very careful, because if you keep threatening to put boots on the ground, you may have to put boots on the ground. And as I said, the moment that first boot lands in Iran, it's finished. I'm telling you, the country will not support him. Right, wrong, good, bad, he will lose the election, and he may end up unraveling his entire presidency. This is the biggest gamble he has ever made, politically. Now, if it comes up roses, and I'm going to be the first one to admit it, if he overthrows the Ayatollahs or completely smashes their regime, and they sign a peace treaty that effectively, permanently neuters and guts the mullahs, then he will go down in history as the greatest president we've ever had. Because he will have done something that no president was able to do for 47 years, including the great Ronald Reagan. But if this goes sideways, he's in big trouble. He's in big trouble. So it's high risk, high reward, but also could be very high failure. It's basically a game of poker, and he went all in. You win, you're the richest man alive. You lose, you've lost everything. Harry, thank you very much for that call. I'm just calling it the way I see it. Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868 is the number. Now, President Trump yesterday said we're ahead of schedule, that they didn't expect to kill the supreme leader, and nearly 50 of Iran's top political military commanders within the first couple days of the war. They thought they would only get this done after several weeks. So he says they're ahead of schedule and they're going to continue until they complete the mission across the entire board. So he says now he is in it to win it. He wants now to utterly wipe out their ballistic program, their nuclear program, their Navy, their military capability, their ability to fund terrorist groups once and for all. Okay, President Trump gave an interview to the New York Post yesterday, made a lot of news. That's where he talked about potentially, maybe, if it's necessary, as he put it, to put U.S. boots on the ground. He also talked about a 4 or 5 week war, maybe even a little bit longer. But then he said this part, and I thought this was very interesting, because he's asked about the polls. And there's a big Reuters Ipsos poll that has come out, which is the first poll after the bombing has begun. 43%, according to Reuters Ipsos, take it for what it's worth. 43% disapprove of the U.S. bombing of Iran. 27% approve. 29% are not sure. Now, just as a very quick aside, that's one of the reasons why I felt the president should address the country and make his case to the American people in a primetime address, all the major networks, because that 29% that's not sure, I think a lot of them are like, wow, what just happened? Like, we were not at war on Friday, suddenly we're at war? I mean, they're not like this audience or, us who follow politics, political junkies who follow politics on a daily basis and are extremely well informed. So this was like a blue bolt from the unknown for them. So I think to get, a lot of that 29% that's not sure, I'm positive if he lays out the case the way he can get that 27 approval up and up and up and up. And my reading, it's 50-50. If you really want my reading, I think the country is divided on this. I don't think there's a majority against. I don't think there's a majority for. I think the country pretty much is split on this issue, divided on this issue. But anyway, that's my own personal opinion. But at the very least, I think if he wants to get that 29% that are not sure, I would address the nation. Just my advice, take it for what it's worth. Now, what he said was, this is the interesting part, that he says, I know the polls aren't good. He admits it. He goes, the polls are not good. But then he says, I don't care about the polls. And he said, the reason why I don't care about the polls is that this is for the long-term good of the United States, the region, and the world. He said, every president has ignored the Iran problem. They have not dealt with it. They just kicked the can. He didn't say this part. I'm paraphrasing. They just kicked the can down the road. They just passed it off to the next leader. He goes, I am not willing to do that. I am going to deal with this issue once and for all. And if the polls go good or the polls go bad, I don't care. This is about what is right for the United States and for the world. So Trump is basically saying he's adamant on this issue, that if it hurts me politically, if it hurts me in terms of my popularity, if it drives down my poll numbers, I'm willing to take the hit because I believe it is in the long-term national security interests of the United States. So what that signals to me is that he's going for the jugular. When he says it's going to be 4 or 5 weeks, he's not kidding. When he says this is going to be a massive, intense, ferocious bombing, missile, and sea campaign, he's not kidding. And when he says he wants to tear the guts out of the Ayatollahs, he's not kidding. So we shall see. 617-266-6868. Ashley we just lost Ashley. Okay. Who do you want me to go to next, Mike? Bruce in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bruce, and welcome.
Oh,
Bruce, what do you make of this, my friend?
What I make of this, Jeff, is a lot of people have been crapping all over you. And, I guess they got a right to say what they got to say, and you got the right what you got to say. All I know is this is not going to be a long, extended anything. We're taking out all their missile launching capabilities. We're taking out a lot of things. But the thing of it is, we've only lost, and it's a shame, 6 now?
Yes, 6. That's the latest count. 6, 6 service members.
And more people get killed in Chicago in a weekend. But those guys that die in Chicago, that's totally separated from what I'm talking about. Any servicemen that die. But there will be no boots on the ground, Jeff. No way, Jeff. I don't believe that. And I'm listening to all this rhetoric and how there's so many what went on was decisive. It wasn't just if this was Biden or Obama, or it'd be a cluster F.
Well, Bruce, look, you're right. And to even further your point, okay, very quickly, because the lines are blazing, I want to give you, the best audience in the business, obviously, a chance to speak. So we'll come right back to you. But first, listen now to President Trump saying we are ahead of schedule, number one. And number two, this is where he says we're looking at a 4 to 5 week time frame. And if we have to go even more, we will. I will do whatever is necessary to achieve our key objectives. Roll cut 5, Mike.
We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay. Whatever it takes, we will always, and we have right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that. We'll do it, whatever.
And he didn't finish, but whatever it takes. He clarified that in an interview later. They said, you said whatever, and he said, I meant whatever it takes. So in other words, we're in it to win it. Now, my question to you, 617-266-6868. Are you willing to wait 4, 5, 6, whatever weeks? Is that acceptable to you? Number one. Number two, gas prices are going up. I'm just stating a reality. Gas prices have gone up considerably. It's one of the top stories right now in the country and around the world. If the war continues, they will continue to go up. So you're going to be paying more at the pump. That's coming. Are you willing to pay more at the pump to see the mullahs defanged, to see their regime completely disarmed and neutered? And the ultimate question, Trump has now opened the door to potentially, maybe, putting U.S. boots on the ground if that's what it takes to finish the job. Would you support putting U.S. forces, U.S. soldiers on the ground, either to topple the Iranian regime, the mullahs, or to help the poor people of Iran rise up and take back their country and their government? 617-266-6868. Debbie in Milton. Thanks for holding, Debbie, and welcome.
Hi, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Debbie.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Well, really. There's a lot of things that I agree with you on, and there's a lot of things that I do not agree with you on. I feel as though there has been a pressure point put upon Trump, and he felt like he had to do this because, let's not forget, we've had 4 years open borders, and prior to that, we've had attacks on American soil by Islamic terrorists. And we had a man in office who had our ships out in the Mediterranean being targeted, but they couldn't really hit them back, but they could defend the missiles that were coming towards them. We've got a lot of intel that says, well, we're going to be hit at any time like a 9/11. And that was from Director Wray under the Biden administration. He was being truthful. And also the USA, think of close to our heart, Boston Marathon. Okay, my niece ran in that Boston Marathon. In fact, she lives in Boston. She owns condos and blah, blah, blah. She's a beautiful person. I am the last person that wants to see my niece in danger. And going forward, we had the Houthis under, I think it was the Obama administration, that took our sailors and shamed them. And we were the embarrassment of the world. And how many more times do we have to hear death to America, Christmas crowds being plowed into by Islamic terrorists? I'm sorry, but there had to have been something done. We never had a president, and I don't agree with wars. I hate wars. I know the Bush took us into the Iraq war, and my younger brother, he's no longer with us now, but he wanted to kill Bush Jr. because he knew he was only doing it for his father because they threatened his life. But that was not the right person to attack. They did not have weapons of mass destruction, and it was proven later. So, I can go on, but the thing is, we don't have NATO. We never did have NATO. We supplied them with money, lots of money. We never had NATO. They wouldn't come to our rescue. In World War II, it was actually Russia that helped us out, okay? And I'm going to go all over the board with this, but...
No, Debbie, look, I agree with you. I really do. I think you've made several very good points. But look, where's NATO now? Now, I understand Article 5. It says, if an attack on one is considered an attack on all, and technically Iran did not attack us, right? We attacked Iran, technically. We made a decision that Trump made and along with Bibi Netanyahu that they were developing a nuclear program in secret, surreptitiously, as they say, a secret program combined with a ballistic program that they said, you know what, the ballistic missiles could eventually reach Europe, maybe one day the United States. They were continuing to enrich uranium at a level that was too close for comfort, according to Trump and Bibi, that could become weapons grade. And they didn't want to take that risk. And they said, we've got to take them out now before you deal with the nuclear Iran. But okay, so I understand that. But the fact of the matter is, come on, let's all be honest. We're in a war. We're in a war. And we're not in a war with, some little dinky small power. Okay? We're in a war with Iran. It is, for whatever you think about them, they are a regional power with, a large army. At least they had a large navy. We're destroying it almost every day. We're sinking ships, but they have a large navy, a large army. They have an air force. They have a lot of missiles, and they have a lot of terrorist supporters and proxies all over the region and around the world. So, and they are the motherland for Shia Islam, not Sunni Islam, but Shia Islam. And there are a lot of Shiites in the world, all over the world, including here in the United States. And they look at the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, as basically their version of their pope. So it's going to activate potentially terrorist cells. So everybody can sense it. Everybody's tense. Everybody senses this is a big war. And this could become even a bigger war if this thing spirals out of control. Where are our NATO allies? Where are they? Ukraine was not a NATO ally. Look how much we've done for Ukraine. What I'm saying is, when our friends or European partners or whatever, when they're attacked, we always have their back. Always. 110%. Where are they now? Where's Germany? Where's France? Where's Britain? Nowhere. Where's the entire European Union? Nowhere. Now, to be fair, the Canadian Prime Minister has said verbally he supports us. The Australian Prime Minister says he supports us. But that's just words. Canada's not contributing one soldier or even $1, even a penny. So we're getting no military, material, financial support whatsoever. So again, we're on our own. Us and obviously Israel. We're on our own. Look at all these Arab countries that we protect. Here, Qatar just came out 2 hours ago. Look it up, please. Don't take my word for it. Okay, and we have given now a NATO-style military guarantee to Qatar. Okay, Qatar, wherever they call themselves nowadays. So we are obligated to protect Qatar. Should Qatar be attacked, we will defend them militarily. They have just told us, stop the bombing in Iran. We do not support the bombing in Iran. It will destabilize the region. We're asking you to stop. The Saudis, stop. All of them. Kuwait. We went to war over Kuwait against Saddam Hussein. My only point is this. We do so much for these countries. And look how they pay us back. Look how they pay us back. They're not there saying, hey, you Americans now are in a war. You know what? You've done so much for us. We're with you shoulder to shoulder on this one. We're alone. Again, with Israel. And this has been my point, I don't know for how many years. They're not our real friends or allies. Friendship is always a two-way street. Friendship is really mutual love. Okay, that's what a friendship is. They're using us. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, in a couple of days, okay, the debate is beginning today, but in a couple of days, Congress is going to be voting on a war powers resolution for President Trump regarding the war in Iran. And the Democrats are claiming, falsely, that this war is illegal and unconstitutional. That is not true. And they're trying to tie the president's hands by forcing Congress to vote on a war powers resolution. If it passes, this would compel President Trump to have to come to Congress and get authorization and approval for his bombing campaign over Iran, and not just over Iran, for anything he wants to do going into the future. Now, a couple of points, and then I want to throw it open to you. 617-266-6868 is the number. As I pointed out on X, and I mentioned this as well yesterday, but it bears repeating, the hypocrisy here by the Democrats is absolutely stunning. It's frankly disgusting. When Bill Clinton bombed Kosovo, the Democrats weren't yelling and screaming war powers resolution. He got zero authorization from Congress. They supported Bill Clinton. The Democrats said he had all the legal constitutional authority to bomb Kosovo, and that bombing campaign went on for months and months and months and months. It was a 78-day bombing campaign. So when Bubba decides to bomb Serbia to detach one of its its cradle province, Kosovo, then that's okay. When Bubba sent in the troops to take over Haiti, that was okay. You don't need an authorization from Congress. When George H.W. Bush, the father, Bush 41, when he sent in our troops, we invaded Panama. We overthrew Manuel Noriega. That was a regime change war. He got no authorization from Congress. Democrats had no problem. They hated Noriega. When the der Litter, Barack Hussein Obama, bombed Libya into the Stone Age to to the point that Gaddafi was then captured and brutally murdered. His body was dismembered. Nancy Pelosi famously came out and said he didn't need congressional authorization for that. So let me get this straight. Obama can bomb Libya and enact regime change. Bill Clinton can bomb Kosovo and enact regime change. The Democrats can bomb and take over country after country after country, and there's no need to go to Congress, never mind a war powers resolution. But when President Trump decides to do something that he deems in the national security interests of the United States, all of a sudden, they're all running around like a chicken without a head. Ice Cream Ed, the clown, Ed Markey, this is illegal and unconstitutional. Congressman Stevie Lynch, this is constitutionally very troubling, very troubling. And now you've got, Ro Khanna and all these other clowns in Congress saying this war powers resolution now. They want to humiliate Trump. They want to oppose Trump for the sake of opposing Trump. And let me tell you the dirty little secret. They want this war to go bad. They want to see Trump defeated in Iran. And to me, the thing that I find most disgusting of all is how many Democrats, led by AOC, led by Ilhan Omar, led by Rashida Tlaib, are openly siding with the mullahs and openly siding with the Iranians. Ilhan Omar is practically crying. She's mourning the death of Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader. You can't make this up. They're crying for the guy. And by the way, notice, not a peep on college campuses. 36,000 Iranian protesters, most of them young, all of them unarmed. Slaughtered by these ayatollahs. Okay, over the last, 4 or 5 weeks. By the way, some of them were killed in hospital beds. They were first beaten or shot. They're wounded. They tracked them to the hospital. In the hospital beds, they were executing them. Did you see college campuses erupt on behalf of the poor Iranians being slaughtered by this Islamo-fascist regime? Did you see them shedding tears? Do you see them blocking traffic and going on the streets the way they did for the Palestinians in Gaza? Suddenly, no. If it's Islamists butchering and murdering their own people, that's okay. Then they don't protest. But if it's the Palestinians, if it's time to hate the Jews, if it's time to vilify and attack Israel, then they take over college campuses. Then they riot. Then they block traffic. You phonies, you frauds, you. The president will have to get authorization from Congress, an authorization for war. If this campaign continues to go on, if the war spreads to other countries, and especially if he wants to introduce ground troops into what could be a huge potential regional conflagration with Iran and some of their allies. I've always said this. I don't like the practice that we've seen in this country now going back for 50 years, whereby we go war after war after war after war, and Congress does not get a say. The Constitution is crystal clear. If you're going to take us to war, you must have the explicit approval and authorization of Congress. And Congress deliberately has been abdicating its constitutional responsibilities and duties. Why? Because, as I said earlier, they're not responsible. If things go bad, they can blame the president. I want every single member of Congress an up or down vote. Do you support this war? And then and then they can be held accountable at election time. And by the way, when you have a vote in Congress, that's when the American people can express their views, their wishes. You call up your member of Congress and you say, I'd like for you to vote this way. Whatever. I'd like you to vote for it or I'd like you to vote against it. But this way, you get a say. We get a say. This way, it's just the president, like a dictator, and that's from any party, I don't care, gets to do whatever they want, and we have to live with the consequences. And I'm tired of, trampling upon the Constitution. We are a constitutional republic. We are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Well, I can't think of a decision that affects us more, that is more important than the decision of life or death, the decision of whether we should put our men and women in harm's way and send them to war. So I'm sorry. We, the American people, should get a say. We should get a vote. And that vote is through Congress. So, look, if this war does continue to go on, yes, President Trump should definitely have to go to Congress. I would say that about any president. But this war powers resolution, this is a political stunt. And by the way, I don't think the Democrats even have the votes. There's enough pro-Israel Democrats left. There's a handful of them that are going to break ranks, and it looks like this war powers resolution is going to go down. But to me, what sticks in my throat is that the very same Democrats who said it was okay for Obama, okay for Bill Clinton, okay for Bush 41, they could engage in wars and bombing campaigns and regime change. That's okay. They never needed authorization or approval from Congress. Now, speaking out of the other side of their mouth, suddenly say it's a constitutional crisis if Trump doesn't do it. So, no. What Trump is doing is not illegal. It's not unconstitutional. It's 1,000% okay, because if it was good enough for Obama, and if it was good enough for Bill Clinton, and if it was good enough for Bush 41, then it's good enough for Trump. Now, on the larger issue of a declaration of war, yes, if this war continues to escalate and escalate and escalate, as I said, and we're going to put boots on the ground, no question about it. He has to go to Congress. In fact, I will demand that he go to Congress. There, he's got to get congressional authorization. And so, my question to you, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Will Congress support the bombing of Iran? So, say the president now says, okay, we're going to, this is going to be a protracted conflict. It's going to go on for several months. I want the express approval, support of Congress, authorization. He goes to Congress and says, I need an authorization for war. Will Congress support the bombing of Iran? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in National ER. You can also vote via X, and boy, was I active last night. My handle on X, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN as in National ER. All the Democrats, with the exception of one or two, Fetterman, maybe a couple of Democrats in the House, are going to vote against any bombing of Iran. The Democrats, just to oppose Trump, will be against this. I don't know if the Republicans will hold firm. I have to be honest with you. I don't know. Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Mitch McConnell. I don't know. Thomas Massey is already a no as a Republican on the in the House on the House side. I don't know if he could get the votes through Congress. I really don't. That's why I think he needs to address the American people. He's got to get more people behind this operation, lay out his case, because if the polls continue to show such disapproval and such tepid support, it's going to embolden his political enemies to vote against him should he go to Congress. So let's throw this log on the fire. Should President Trump go to Congress to get an authorization for war against Iran? And do you think if he does go to Congress, will Congress give him that authorization? Will he get the votes? 617-266-6868. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Thanks for taking the call, Jeff.
My pleasure, Dan.
Jeff, this is becoming very controversial. I got to ask you a question personally. Do you support what the president is doing?
No.
Do you believe that, being that you're a very influential person, and you have a lot of listeners here, that you could be potentially causing some division amongst the MAGA supporters at a time that we really don't need that, because there's already enough of lack of support through other politics? And in the reality, you're looking, this problem with Iran has been going on for 50 years. They've threatened us. They've threatened other people in the Arab world. They've threatened Israelis. You happen to be Jewish. They don't want the Israeli state. They're doing everything that they could possibly do to destroy it. They've been unsettling the Middle East for decades, and no one has had enough of balls to take the situation on like Trump. Now, quite honestly, there's a lot. When you look at Iran has got oppressed people. They don't really want that administration, as well as the persons of Venezuela. They were oppressed also. Now, if you look closely, those two nations are loaded with natural resources, and they're unfriendly to us at one time. Now, what will happen here is that we're going to resolve a problem. We're going to basically, hopefully, mend the situation, get a regime or a democracy in there that's going to be more favorable to us. That's going to open up more ability to have a say in what goes on with the oil and the natural resources and the power in the world. And one who controls and has power over the natural resources and the energy of the world have a greater control over the world, which would allow China maybe not to get into a war against Taiwan, because they wouldn't have the resources to be able to do so, because we're more in charge. It's a fight over power. And when they say make America great again, they mean make America great again in the world. And that's not just our economy. That's not just because we've lost face in the world because of an embarrassing president that we had. We're talking about bringing us back as the number one undisputed power in the world. And what you have to look at is the world needs to see what our capabilities actually are. They could think it. They had no idea that, let's face it, China has sent all of their defense mechanisms and stuff to some of these areas. It's proving to be the technology a lot less effective than what ours are. I believe that this is ultimately will settle the Middle East into a more quieter, more business-like place, and will secure Israel so they will not have to be under threat for the rest of their existence. It'll also set the stage for us to gain leverage with the power and the energies of the world so that the other adversaries in our world don't have control of that and, of course, control of the world. So we really don't need to be divisive amongst MAGA. This president that we've had, I'm very pleased with in every way. I mean, people may not like him because of his personality, but as far as his performance, I mean, he's brought us back. I used to lose sleep over Iran bombing us or over China bombing us or other situations because I felt that our country didn't have a handle on the world. And now we're at a situation where everybody's second-guessing a guy who's been right on all the way with all his other decisions. And I have to say, you're doubting him, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely doubting him. No, I think he's making the biggest mistake of his presidency. And what I don't get is this, Dan, and this is my point that I had with Mark Levin and with Scott Jennings and with others. I would never dare to censor them. I would never dare to tell them, don't express an opinion that you firmly believe in your heart is in the best interests of the United States because of the way it could be perceived to impact MAGA or public opinion or support for or against the President of the United States. I'm accountable to God. Ultimately, forgive me, but I'm not accountable to Donald Trump, or I'm not accountable to the Republican Party, or I'm not accountable to something called MAGA. Look, I love MAGA. I was a key player in I wrote the original America First column that Trump read. This was years before he ran. And one of the issues I said was you have to stop these endless wars and trade and immigration. I said those are the three issues that will carry the next person to power because that's what, most conservatives and most people in middle America care about. But ultimately, I'm accountable to God. I have to meet my maker. And what I want to ask you and what I want to ask everybody else because I've been getting this a lot lately. So what would you rather have me do, in all honesty? Okay, as a human being to a human being, a friend to a friend, a longtime listener to the Kuhner man, support something I don't believe in? Lie to you? Come here and do what Sean Hannity does and all these other, corporate media opportunists and just, read from a list of talking points from the administration and just serve power and champion something that in my heart of heart I don't believe in and disrespect you? I would never disrespect you like that. I would never disrespect this audience. I give you my honesty because I respect you. No, I didn't. Never said you have to agree with me. I let people call in. They disagree with me like you did. I gave you 3, 4, 5 minutes. You made out your case and people can decide whether they agree with you or agree with me. Now, by the way, I'm not really dividing very much because, frankly, the audience is, 9, 10 to 1 against me. Sandy made an excellent point to me while we were off air. She said, Jeff, you really need to stress to Kuhner country, you're not Tucker Carlson, you're not Marjorie Taylor Greene, you're not Thomas Massey, you're not breaking with Trump. You obviously are a staunch supporter of the president. You believe in him. You believe his an agenda. You're going to vote for him in the midterms. You're going to urge as many people as possible to support him in the midterms. So, it's not like suddenly now, you're washing your hands of Trump and you become his enemy. I just have an honest disagreement with him. And what pains me is that I believe that this could come back to haunt him politically and cost us the midterms. Now, look, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I've always said this. I'll be the first to admit it. Believe me. I don't have an ego about these sort of things. So it's out of concern that we're potentially making a mistake that's going to really hurt us and hurt Trump when with the upcoming midterms. Because if we lose power, if we lose the House, or God forbid, the House and the Senate, our country's going to be in serious trouble. So that's where my heart is. That's where I'm coming from. And, and Sandy made another point. Like, I'm just being honest with all of you. I mean, do you want somebody who's sycophantic? Look, I know the audience is 90-10 against me on this. I know that. Believe me, this is not going to boost my ratings. But, I mean, do you want me to pander to you? Because that's what all these people on Fox do, or that's what most talk show hosts do. They just put their finger up in the wind and they go, oh, okay, the audience is going this way. Well, yeah, tell them what they want to hear. Yeah, just, give them the same, give them the talking points, and privately they don't agree with it. I would never do that to you. I would never lie to you. I would never disrespect you. I would never say something to you that I never truly believe. I think a hell of a lot better of you than I'm telling you most other conservatives do. Look, I know them. Most of them aren't even conservatives. They just play one on the air. I'm telling you, I know these people. I find it demeaning. I find it insulting. I find it, frankly, profoundly immoral and dishonest. So, look, when Trump bombed Syria, if you remember in his first term, I opposed it. Because I'm generally anti-war. I mean, not always. I'm not a pacifist. For example, I backed Trump in that 12-day bombing campaign last year to take out Iran's nuclear weapons program. I said, no, we can't allow the Ayatollahs to have a bomb. Take it out. But I knew that the mission was limited. It was focused. It was clearly based on the national interest. We had an exit strategy. We're in, we're out. And militarily, it was spectacular. On this issue, look, agree, disagree. I'm just calling it the way I see it. They keep changing the objectives. That's the first concern I have. When they started the bombing, what did they say? They said, we're there to destroy the remnants of the nuclear program. And then they said, and the ballistic missile program. Okay, fine. But then they said, well, hold on. No. Now we're going to destroy and decimate their entire Navy. Now we're going to destroy and decimate their entire military infrastructure. Well, now you're broadening already now your ambitions. Okay, now we're moving, as I said, the goalposts. But okay, no, then they said, and this is where I started to say, whoa, they said, no, this is a regime change war. We're urging the people of Iran, rise up. This is your chance. This is your time. Seize power. Right now, they're not rising. Maybe they're waiting. Maybe they're in bomb shelters. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, so far, they're not rising. But then they came back, and Trump explicitly said yes. Rubio said yes. J.D. Vance said yes to this question. If the mullahs come to the table and say zero enrichment, no nuclear program whatsoever, no ballistic missile program whatsoever, we will stop supporting and funding terrorism. We will sign on the dotted line right here. Will that end the war? Yes. So then it's not a regime change war. If the Ayatollahs, if they cry uncle and basically disarm, okay, let's just, basically disarm, neuter themselves, then no, it's not a regime change war. The mullahs can stay in power. Well, where does that leave the protesters? Now you left them twisting in the wind. So it's a regime change war, maybe, could be, depending. And then Hegseth comes in and says, well, we're paying them back for the last 50 years. Roy in the great state of Oklahoma. Thanks for holding, Roy, and welcome.
Jeff, everything you've said today, I totally agree with. I'm with you 100%. I know we've had our disagreements in the past. But me being retired military, And your favorite investigative reporter, Benjamin Fulford, he just came out with his newsletter. I'm being sarcastic when I say that. He came out with his newsletter yesterday. And by the way, Benjamin did say he's going to call into your show. So far, he hasn't done that. And I'm really surprised that he hasn't. But his newsletter came out yesterday. And being retired military, what he said about our military and what's actually going on over there, I found very fascinating. And I put it in, I'll read it, quick excerpts from that newsletter, so I don't want to put anybody to sleep. But he goes on to say, you also need to understand that both the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Army refused to carry out a war against Iran on behalf of Israel. However, elements of the U.S. Air Force, long infiltrated by Nazis, were sent to their eternal shame. Their leaders will face a death penalty for treason once the dust settles. Of this you can be sure. Even if parts of the U.S. Air Force have been compromised, most of what we are watching on our TV screens is fake. My Mossad sources tell me Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was not there. He was already out of the country. He will disappear and enjoy his billions of dollars. This was part of the deal. Let's see what actually comes out later over the next several weeks. The only thing is, fake or not, the American people are not being fooled anymore. Opinion polls show only 21% of Americans support the fake Trump's attack on Iran. Let's see, the fake Trump regime.
Roy, I don't want you to read because it's not good radio. But I get your point. Look, I'll be honest. I think Khamenei is dead. I think there's no question. There's a new Ayatollah now, actually a new supreme leader. He's calling the shots in Iran. He's already been sending messages. He's been giving speeches. So no, I know Khamenei was planning to maybe leave for Russia, before the war happened. And so maybe some people thought he got away, but he did not get away. They got him. He's dead. I'm happy that he's dead, to be honest with you. And now they have a new hardliner, saying, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Look, I'll be honest with you. I have not heard reports of our troops defecting or not wanting to fight. Quite the opposite. They're fighting extremely well, very professionally. This is an incredible operation. Just in terms of logistically, they have hit over 1,000 targets. They have essentially wiped out Iran's navy. They have decimated their command and control. Their political leadership has now been broken. Their military leadership, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, they've pretty much removed or eliminated almost their entire leadership. So the mullahs are going to have a problem. No matter what, if they survive this, and now I'm not sure anymore that they will, but if they survive this, they are going to be clinging to power for years to come. This is not going to be the same regime when this thing is over. They are going to be a husk, a shell of their former selves. And if they were smart, and they're not smart, but if they were smart, if they had any kind of an instinct for self-preservation, I would give President Trump a call or Rubio a call and say, let's go back to Geneva, and what do you want us to sign? Just put a piece of paper in front of us. What do you want us to sign? Because at this point, they're not just going to lose their nuclear program. They're not just going to lose all their ballistic missile facilities. They're not just going to lose their navy. They're going to lose their regime. They're going to lose power. So we're going to see what's going to happen, obviously. But you're dealing with religious fanatics. And the thing about religious fanatics is they're not rational. That's the problem. Roy, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Look, I just want to say one other thing. Regarding Dan's call a couple calls ago. He said, well, democracy will emerge in Iran. We knock off the mullahs. Democracy will emerge. Iran will become a stable partner again. Oil will be flowing throughout the region, throughout the world. This could even open up, and Netanyahu made that argument on Sean Hannity last night on Fox. I caught the interview, where this will open up historic peace between the Israelis and the Saudis and all these other Gulf states. If you want, let's play it. You know what? You're right, Mike. Let's play it. Here's Bibi Netanyahu. So here's what he's saying. Okay. Roll cut 7A, Mike.
Iran has been the main engine of war over these years. It's just 95% of all the problems you see in the Middle East are generated by Iran. And the worldwide terror network that they built is generated and orchestrated from Iran. So when you take away Iran, when you let the people of Iran have the opportunity to act to liberate themselves, free themselves from the yoke of this terror machine, you get a different future. I think that will open up the way for many peace treaties with other Arab countries, with Muslim countries. I think it changes the world.
Okay, it's utopian nonsense. I mean, this is just, it's blatant. Remember what I said yesterday about the missile that apparently hit a school in Iran. And I said, I don't know if it was from our side. I don't know if it was from a stray missile from Iran. I said, if it was from our side, I believe it's a war crime. But now it looks like it may have been a stray Iranian missile. But what did I say? In war, truth is always the first casualty. Always remember that. War brings out the worst instincts in people over and over and over again. And in war, leaders lie. Just a fact. Okay? It's just a fact. Now, just common sense. Just objectively. Who attacked us on 9/11? Al-Qaeda. What are they? Shia or Sunni? They're Sunni. Who coddled them? The Taliban. What are they? Sunni. Who funded 15 of the 19 hijackers? Who funded and supported them? Saudi Arabia, the House of Saud, the great Sunni power in the Middle East. So don't tell me that 95% of all the problems in the Middle East comes from Iran. Iran is the biggest state sponsor of terror. They're a horrible, evil regime. What I'm saying is, there are other evil regimes in the Middle East. Sunni Islam is just as much of a threat to the West as Shia Islam. Maybe not to Israel, but certainly to Europe, to America, and to the West. I'm sorry, facts are facts. Did 9/11 not happen? Were the Saudis not behind it? Are they not funding madrasas all over the world? So, no, it's not just Iran. That's not true. Okay? That's point number one. Point number two, and this I would ask of anybody. Tell me, when has there ever been peace in the Middle East? Ever. Ever. Name me one time. Ever. Since the birth of Islam, when has there ever been, in 1,500 years, when has there ever been peace in the Middle East? Okay, let me go even further. When has there ever been peace for non-Muslims in the Middle East? Christians, Jews, Yazidis. I can run down every Druids. Pick your religious group. So this idea that if we just get rid of the mullahs, that all of a sudden now it's going to be sunshine and rainbows. And peace is now, oh my God, it's nothing but peace all over the Middle East. Bull crap. This is war propaganda. That's what this is. I'm sorry. Okay? You're peddling a utopian fantasy. He sounds like a liberal now. I can't believe Bibi would even say something like this. Okay, this is like John Lennon. Now, furthermore, here, let's go even further. Doesn't this all remind you of Iraq? You just overthrow Saddam. Oh, if we overthrow Saddam, there'll be democracy in Iraq. Oh, we'll have a stable partner. The oil will flow. Peace and harmony. We'll have defeated the terrorists. What happened instead? We had chaos, instability, the rise of Islamist insurgencies, ISIS, radical Islam, the exact opposite. Let me go even further. Name me one Muslim country that's a real democracy. Name me one. Name me one. So why all of a sudden should the Iranians, after being brutalized by the Ayatollah, before that, living under a dictatorship under the Shah, I could go back and back, okay? A Persian empire going back thousands of years. You can also text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. Okay, my friends, on my personal text line, two friends of mine, actually two very dear friends of mine, are coming at this Iran war from diametrically opposite points of view. They're both diehard Trump supporters. They all voted for Trump 3 times. They're MAGA to the core. They love the man. One is for it. One is against it. I want to read the first one from a really dear friend of mine. He is completely on board, supports Trump all the way, and he's not happy with me. He's pretty upset with me. He's never been upset with me, but this time he's upset with me. He doesn't like the position I'm taking, and so this is what he wrote me on my personal cell. Jeff, all I'm hearing this morning is fear and fear-mongering. I understand people don't like this aspect of war, but I'm not hearing any support for a decision that President Trump has made. I believe he knows exactly what he's doing, and I have faith he will get the job done as quickly and as neatly as possible. Trump is looking out for America in a very strategic way. It's not only about Iran. It's about their Islamic proxies, funding terror, and cutting off oil to China and Russia. Venezuela has been neutralized, and Cuba is next. Trump is playing the long game. And as you so often say, if not us, who? If not now, when? So basically, he's saying, look, Jeff, Trump is A, right on the merits, and B, geopolitically, he's like a master chess player, and all of this is ultimately to take down China and really make America the preeminent superpower in the world. Now, here's from another friend of mine. Again, very dear friend and staunch MAGA supporter as well. Here's what he writes. Jeff, was it the right decision to go to war with Iran? Right for whom is the key clarification question. Because I'm now going to tell you this, and I'm willing to bet the farm on it. Regardless of the short or even long-term results of the bombing in Iran, the following now will, and he puts will in caps, happen. The Republicans will get crushed in the midterms. Trump will be impeached and neutered. The Democrats will take the trifecta of the House, the Senate, and in 2028, the Oval Office. The borders will swing open again. Every aspect of woke ideology will roar back, and it will become fixed. The debt will soar, and the dollar will collapse. And maybe Israel and Europe will enjoy some extended comfort and security from Iranian missiles. But I ask you, right for whom? Because in the end, this war is deeply unpopular with the American people. Trump campaigned on no new wars, and the Democrats are going to crucify him for it. So, now, to be honest, the second email is my fear. Eloquently, powerfully stated the way he did. The reason why I fear this war, not that I fear the mullahs, quite the contrary. Not that I fear the Iranian military. Quite the contrary. We're destroying them. I mean, we're going like, it's like a hot knife through butter. We have exposed the paper tiger that is Iran. And our military has performed brilliantly, exceptionally. I could not be more proud of our men and women. I have to say this, okay? But I'm talking about the long-term political consequences of this. Maybe geopolitical, we'll see, but the political consequences of this. If the Democrats come back, I'm telling you, he's right. The borders are going to be opened again. Let's be very clear. The woke ideology is going to return. It's going to roar back. And this time it's going to be fixed. The dollar is going to collapse. The debt is going to explode. And I don't think as a country we'll be able to recover. Look, already, you know who they're running in AOC. Now the left is galvanizing and rallying around AOC. AOC. And their logic is, if Mamdani can win New York City, AOC can win the White House. And if there's a war that goes sideways, where, it really goes bad, God forbid, that will give the radical left the opening to come and seize power. And I'm telling you this as an historian. Historically, here, what brought the Bolsheviks to power in Mother Russia? It was the disaster of their entry in World War I. I mean, I could give you example after example after example. Wars lead to the left coming to power. Wars destabilize. Wars create the conditions for political extremists, especially left-wing extremists, to come to power. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen. It may not happen. The exact opposite may happen. This could be a spectacular victory. And the Ayatollahs fall. The Crown Prince returns. And a stable government is put in place. And Trump will go down and be hailed as maybe the greatest president we've ever had. And he will get a massive bounce in the polls. And the Republicans will soar to victory in the midterms. We can spitball multiple scenarios. But what I'm saying is, when you go down the road of war, and let me just get even more personal. I was there. I was at the Washington Times. I saw what happened to the Bush regime. When the Iraq War went south, Pelosi rose to power. The Democrats took back the House. They took back the Senate. And that set the stage for Barack Hussein Obama. Had you told me in 2001, after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, that an anti-American radical socialist who is a cultural Muslim would be president in 7 years, I'd say you're freaking crazy. You're on drugs. 7 years later, the dear leader became president of the United States, and I believe we've never been the same since. And what caused this great unraveling, this great destabilization? It was the war in Iraq. It didn't just consume Bush's presidency. It led to the rise of the radical left. First, Pelosi in the House and in the Senate. The Democrats took over the Senate, and that set the stage for Obama, and he crushed McCain. Because McCain was seen as a pro-war candidate. The country had turned against the war, and they went to an anti-war radical like Obama. So I was burned by that experience. If you want to say I was traumatized by that experience. And I shook my head and I said it wasn't worth it. It all wasn't worth it. Now, I don't want to have to look back, fingers crossed, and say, oh no, did we blow it again in the Middle East with another war? And is it going to cost us as dearly again? This time, not with a Barack Hussein Obama, but with a Hakeem Jeffries and a Chuck Schumer and, God forbid, an AOC in 2028 or whatever, a Gavin Newsom or a Kamala Harris, or take your pick. Because I'm telling you, we barely survived Obama. We barely survived Biden. I don't know if we'll be so lucky this time. So this is exactly where I'm coming from. 617-26, you can agree or disagree. I'm just being honest with you. 617-266-6868. Joe in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Joe, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, Joe.
Jeff, I think you have the best callers in the business, as you always say, and I always agree with you 99% of the time. 99% of the time. And on this, what's been going on for 47 years with Iran and all the presidents that we've had that just, like you said, kick the can down the road. Okay? And how many hundreds of thousands of people has Iran been responsible for with the blood on their hands? Okay? And a number of them are our family members. Some of them that served, made the ultimate sacrifice. Okay? And we all pray for the safety of our soldiers today. No one wants to see any of our soldiers be killed. But at the same time, we also have to lift up Trump, because everything in 1 year that Trump has done, how many things has he done wrong, Jeff? How many things has he done wrong? Okay? Now, we talk about last week, for instance, the U.S. women's hockey team, okay? That turned out to be a joke and a nothing burger, okay? I know it was on your show, the whole show, okay? The Epstein, Hillary and Slick Willie. So they went there, deposition, they controlled the meeting. What happened? Biden had the files for 4 years. They did nothing. Okay? So now where we're at, if you listen to Witkoff or you listen to Rubio and you talk, and they both, if you listen to what they had to say, how close Iran was to have bomb-making material again, to be building long-range ballistic missiles, to be back out there rebuilding their nuke program, what we're going to be. I mean, you're thinking about your own children, Jeff. Okay, you're thinking about the future. You're thinking about if they are able to regain their nuclear program or able to get long-range missiles that could hit the U.S. or could start to nuke Israel again. Where are we all going to be at? But at the same time, we have so many things going on in our own state. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar that the Democrats just voted $5 million for attorney fees for illegals in this state so they don't get deported. They have 5 times more chance of staying in this state. And the ones that are detained, they get 10 times more chance, because we have a governor that doesn't care about the people of Massachusetts. And that's why we should all be concentrating on that too. I'd love you to have Manoj on your show. I don't know where he's at, but we need to be thinking about.
Well, Joe, Manoj will be on. Sandy told me yesterday we're going to have him on in a couple of weeks. I wanted him on earlier because, as you know, we had the 2 other Republican candidates. But the soonest, the earliest they were able to do it was in a couple of weeks. So we will have Minogue on for a newsmaker interview. But no, Joe, look, you're completely right. This state has serious problems. Here, I tweeted this out a couple of days ago. There is now a new report from the Pioneer Institute. This should be front page news in this state everywhere. Over the last 5 years, in just 5 years, Massachusetts has permanently lost 182,000 residents. But, I'm not talking about snowbirds who are going to go retire to Florida. 182,000. Overwhelmingly, they are young, in their 20s, early 30s, professional, college-educated taxpayers. Taxpayers, nearly 200,000, have fled Massachusetts in the last 5 years. As the report says, if this trend continues, Massachusetts is going broke. And when asked, now remember, these are people normally that would stay in a state like Massachusetts. Remember, they're in their 20s and early 30s. They've graduated college. They're out there working. So these are people that, you would expect to be around, God willing, right, if they have good health, 40, 50 years working, paying taxes. They're leaving in droves. And when asked why, here's what they said. Taxes are too high. Cost of living is too high. Lack of economic opportunity. We have the highest unemployment rate now in all of New England. They're saying it's harder and harder to find good, decent, quality jobs. Housing, way too expensive. Rent, way too expensive. They're saying we're leaving to other states because nobody wants to live in Massachusetts anymore. And a huge reason is Maura Healey and the radical left-wing agenda. Now, you don't have to be a genius to figure this out. Throw in another 200,000 and then throw in another 200,000. And I'm telling you, who's left to pay the taxes? Because someone's got to take care of all these freaking illegals and everybody on welfare and all these hacks with their pensions, their gold-plated pensions, and, the MBTA, and these guys all have pensions and their gold-plated health care benefits. So this state is going to go bankrupt. And that goes to my larger point, Joe. And this is, again, why I'm opposing this war. We have enough problems at home. We have so many problems at home. And we're going to go now into another extended war? And I know what Witkoff said, and I know what Rubio said. No, Iran was not on the verge of getting 11 nuclear bombs. That's a gross exaggeration. They have ballistic missiles that can barely reach Israel. And the Israelis with the Iron Dome are shooting most of them down. They have ballistic missiles that can now barely reach Europe. Now they're going on about how they're going to hit the continental United States. Stop lying and exaggerating to justify a war. They do it every time. If you want to make your case on these are the Ayatollahs. They started enriching uranium again, which, of course, is anybody shocked? So we bombed them 8 months ago. Are we suddenly now shocked that they're trying to reconstitute their nuclear program? They've been trying to get a bomb now for 25 years. And that they're trying to upgrade and improve their ballistic missile system? We're shocked? But they've just had a massive uprising. Their currency is collapsing. Their economy is unraveling. They're a pariah in the Middle East. We have a massive diplomatic financial pressure campaign on the mullahs and on Iran. They can barely breathe. They, at the negotiations in Geneva, this is what Witkoff is not telling people. I'm not saying I trust the mullahs. I don't. They're a bunch of liars. But what I'm saying is they were willing to put on paper that they were going to cap all enrichment to civilian levels. What was it? 3.7%. And that the International Atomic Energy Agency could have unfettered access. Try diplomacy. Why does everything have to go to war all the time? What I'm saying is it's always war, and it's always Armageddon, apocalypse. Remember, Saddam, he was weeks away from the bomb. Weeks. When we bombed Iran 6-8 months ago, weeks. There were weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Then they tell us that they obliterated their nuclear weapons program. That's literally what they said. Like, that's the exact word. Oh, no, we got it all. We blew up Natanz, Ford, we blew it all up. We destroyed it. We blew it up. Now, 8 months later, oh no, they're reconstituting their nuclear weapons program. We just in sites we don't know. Well, which sites? Like, I'm tired of this. Show me the evidence that you have. Show me the evidence that Iran was 2-3 weeks away from a nuclear bomb. No, sorry, 11 nuclear bombs. Show me the evidence. Show me the evidence that they have a ballistic missile program capable of hitting the continental United States. Show me. Because I don't believe you. I'm calling you out. I don't mean you, Joe. I'm talking Witkoff and Rubio. I don't believe you. I don't. So I'm tired of this. No, I don't trust anybody anymore. You lied to us about Afghanistan. You lied to us about Iraq. You lied to us about Syria. You lied to us about Libya. You lied to us about Ukraine. You lied to us about Nord Stream 2. I get lies and lies and lies and lies and lies. And either you were lying then or you're lying now. Because last year you said the problem was done. That's why I supported the 12-day bombing campaign. It's done. It's obliterated. By the way, no expert says you can reconstitute a nuclear weapons program in 8 months under the conditions that Iran and the sanctions that they're under. That's impossible. That's impossible. So either you were lying to us then, so just admit it, say, you know what, we kind of exaggerated, we didn't really destroy or annihilate as much as we said, or you're exaggerating now. So again, it's always with the panic porn and the fear mongering. It's got to be now. It's got to be right now, right now, right now, right now. No, I don't believe you. I'm sorry, I don't believe you. Now, if that's the case, then I'm telling you right now, look, I go back to John F. Kennedy. What did he do? He showed the world pictures. These are the places that the Russians are putting nuclear weapons. It's 90 miles from Florida. Here are their sites. Here are the satellite photos. He showed it to the world. And the world said, we're with you. Go and show us the evidence. Saudi Arabia will back us. Every Gulf nation will back us. The entire Middle East will back us. Europe will back us because they don't want to have, hey, if Iran gets a nuclear bomb, their missiles can reach Rome and Berlin and Paris and London. Not America, but Europe. Okay, this is from Michael on Messenger. And this is what Michael writes to me. Give us some proof and evidence that Rubio lied to us. You should be on The View. Okay. No, what I want is not evidence let me flip it. Show me the proof and because remember, we're the ones now bombing Iran. We're the ones now that we're at war. We were not at war on Friday. We're at war now starting over the weekend and today. So my question is, show me the evidence, show the American people the evidence that the Iranians, as Steve Witkoff is now claiming, and Rubio regurgitated that yesterday, that the mullahs were one week to 10 days away from not one, not two, but 11 nuclear bombs. 11 nuclear bombs in 1 week. That they were a week to 10 days away from having 11 nuclear bombs. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And I want to know in particular, because remember, everybody now is conveniently forgetting this. The same deep state that has been lying to us now for God knows how many years is the same deep state that's feeding intelligence to President Trump and to Rubio and to Hegseth and to J.D. Vance and to our Joint Chiefs. So do you trust the CIA? I don't trust the CIA. Do you trust the NSA? I don't trust the NSA. So what I'm saying is, no, I'm sorry. I think after the last 25 years, and I've listed all of the failures and all of the lies and all of the falsehoods and misinformation and disinformation, that I think we, the American people, demand transparency. If you're going to take us to war on the condition, and that's what you're claiming, that they were 7-10 days away from not one, not 11 bombs. And by the way, ballistic missiles that could hit the United States, even though they could barely hit Israel. But let that go. Yeah, no, I want to see the evidence. Show me, call me skeptical. I want to see the evidence. Is this so unreasonable? I'm supposed to take it all on blind faith after having been lied to and lied to and lied to? And by the way, I'm not saying Trump is a liar. In fact, he's the opposite. What I'm saying is, like they gave George W. Bush bad intelligence, how do we know they're not giving him bad intelligence again? So what? I'm supposed to take the word of our deep state? With all due respect, I'm supposed to take the word of Israeli intelligence? Saudi intelligence? Intelligence from other countries in the region that have every incentive to have the mullahs overthrown? Because they despise that regime, and I understand why. But remember, they need us to do the heavy lifting. The only country and the only power that's strong enough to overthrow the Ayatollahs is the United States of America. And that's, by the way, for most conflicts around the world. That's why the Ukrainians want us involved. That's why Taiwan wants us involved with China. I could go on and on. Everybody knows you dragoon the United States on your side, you will win. Now, I want to get to Rubio very quickly because he made a shocking, I don't know if you saw his back and forth with the media yesterday, but he gave a shocking reason, an absolutely shocking reason for why, because people are asking the question, but why a preemptive strike on Iran? It's not like Iran attacked us and then we attacked Iran. We, along with Israel, obviously, launched a massive bombing missile campaign, air, sea, missile power. So why? What happened that caused on Friday, Saturday, the decision to launch Operation Epic Fury? Listen now to Rubio. Roll cut 23, a mic.
The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true, because in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Did you catch all that? It's like your head's like spinning. In a nutshell, Israel was going to hit Iran. Iran, thereby, according to him, was going to, that would trigger Iran launching a massive missile attack on U.S. bases. Okay, so just to put an exclamation point, because I want to go right back to the phone lines. To me, it was a shocking reason. And by the way, I don't believe him. I don't believe him. So Rubio's answer was, well, why now? Like, what's the rush? What changed all of a sudden? In other words, what's the new reason? We know what Iran's been doing for the last 47 years. Okay, we know what they've done to our troops in Iraq. We know what they did in 1979. We know what they did with the Marine barracks. we know everything, all of the lists of crimes that the Iranian regime has committed against us and against their neighbors and against the world. So, but what's different now that you need to, launch this massive bombing campaign? And so Rubio's answer was, well, the Israelis were going to hit him first. And we knew the fact that Israel was going to hit him and hit him hard, that this would automatically trigger a massive Iranian missile attack on U.S. forces and U.S. bases across the Middle East, across the region. And so we were forced, in other words, he's saying basically Israel forced our hand. We were forced to hit Iran before Israel did, to preempt Israel and thereby preempt Iran. So what he's really saying, as I pointed out on X, which I don't believe, by the way, is that Israel dragged us into this war? Or to be more accurate, Bibi Netanyahu dragged Trump and the United States into this war? That Bibi called up Trump and said, we're hitting Tehran now. Our evidence says these guys got 11 bombs and they're going to have them in about 7 to 10 days. And that's a risk I'm not taking. And we're going in hard and heavy. And, that's going to mean, the mullahs are going to say, you guys are behind us. And so they're going to launch all these missile attacks and on you guys and on your troops and on your bases across the region. And, so just get ready. And then Trump said, well, if the Israelis are going to hit them and the Iranians are going to retaliate against us, and as Rubio said in that cut that I played, and there are American casualties and we're all going to get blamed for these casualties, well, now I got no choice. I got to preempt Israel and I got to preempt Iran. So basically, what he's saying is Israel dragged us into war. Now, let me just say a couple things. I don't believe it because I know Trump and I know his relationship with Netanyahu. He has told Netanyahu no on many occasions. This idea that Netanyahu is running Trump is a lie. That the tail is wagging the dog is a lie. Bibi didn't want to stop on the 12th day. During last year's, Operation Midnight Hammer, during last year's bombing campaign of Iran's nuclear program, it was Trump who picked up the phone and said, it's over. Okay? No more. Send the jets back home. The operation, finito, it's complete, it's done. There are many times that he says, I've told Bibi, stop, knock it off, no more. So he has said no to Netanyahu on many occasions. So I don't believe that somehow Netanyahu forced his hand. I don't believe it. So the question then is, why? And my opinion, you could disagree with me, my opinion is, I think the deep state, our intelligence community, fed him information and been feeding him information saying, you got 7 days to act. You've got 10 days to act. It's now or never. My God, if you don't do it now, they're going to have a weapon. They're going to have ballistic missiles and, forget Israel. They're going to hit Rome. They're going to hit Berlin. They're going to hit London. They're going to hit Paris. Hell, they're going to be hitting Boston and New York before you know it. Now, what's interesting is London and Berlin and Paris and Rome and Warsaw don't buy this intelligence. I mean, you can call them craven Europeans till the cows come home. They don't buy the intelligence. The Saudis don't buy the intelligence. They're neighbors. The Gulf states say, nah, we don't believe it. Because they don't want, if Iran has a nuclear weapon, it's going to threaten them. So others who've looked at the intelligence or going through their intelligence communities are saying, no, I don't believe it. No, they're not that close, not even close. They're not even close to being that close. So the question is, and I think that's why I'm saying we need more transparency. I want to know about the decision-making process, and I want to know what kind of evidence you have. Is the deep state trying to manipulate Trump into a war? because they believe that a war will cost him the midterm elections. Now, the way they've been manipulating Trump for the last 10 years and trying to destroy Trump for the last 10 years, starting with Russia collusion, I don't think this is an outlandish or outrageous question. So again, I'm not, it's not like, oh, Kuhner hates Trump. Exact opposite. I wouldn't trust our intelligence community with a 10-foot pole. I just wouldn't. So I want to see more evidence. I want to see more proof, because right now I don't trust anybody. And after what we've been through as a country for the last 25 years, I don't think anybody should. Agree, disagree? Tom in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Hello, Jeff.
Hi, Tom.
Thank you for bringing some balance to this illegal war that's going on right now. At least that's what some people would call it. I think the last time there was a War Powers Resolution Act, I think, was probably to declare war on Japan before World War II.
That's right.
Involved. So this is a question that needs to be continued to be asked. I mean, you look at Korea, you look at Vietnam, and all these situations, and Iraq. All you have to do is go back to 2003 and just substitute a few names in there, and it's the same thing, Jeff. If you watch some of the old clips before we attacked Iraq, was the same thing. You just put different names in there. But it's the same. It's almost like it's theater. It's almost like propaganda. I don't know. My favorite expression is read history, otherwise you're doomed to repeat it. It's the same thing. It's the same, continuing to get involved in other people's countries when we have so many problems of our own here. And so I guess I'd just like to say, I'm wondering if you saw that reporter, I'm not sure if it was Dropsite News, pressing John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, what does attacking Iran will help Pennsylvanians, and he kind of just shut him down, just kind of walked away. And so I don't know if I'm not so certain that this will affect the midterms, because a lot of Democrats are for this as well, just like the war, the funding for the Ukraine war. I think it's almost like a uniparty. It's almost like theater now with the violence that's going on in the Middle East, and it's nothing new. I mean, even before '79, the U.S. was involved with Mossadegh before the Shah of Iran. So this goes back many, many years. I mean, before I was born. So I just wish we'd stop getting involved in other countries and make America first. This is what Trump campaigned on and why he won. And it just seems to be, as a Trump voter myself in the past, I mean, it seems like everything has been forgotten about that. So,
well, Tom, look, what you're describing is an empire, and and it's not under Trump. This has been going on for God knows how long, but we have become an empire. And look here, just to prove it, Iran is our problem, Gaza is our problem, the Houthis in Yemen, our problem, Ukraine, our problem, Cambodia, Thailand, our problem. Remember, those are the peace deals that Trump helped sign. Kosovo, Serbia, our problem. These conflicts in Africa, our problem. Taiwan, China, our problem. Vietnam, our problem. The security of Japan, our problem. Venezuela, our problem. Like, what corner of the world is not our problem? Alex in Watertown. Thanks for holding, Alex, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Alex.
Usually I agree with you, but when it comes to this issue in this military campaign against Iran right now, you and all these anti-campaign MAGA people are missing a big picture here. This is not a new war. This is not even a war against a country. This is an international war that's been going on for over decades that Iran started, and it's about time we finish this war. This war has already started, Jeff, before Trump even became president in his first term. This war has to end. I'm with Netanyahu. It won't be as good as he says it will, but we'll get there halfways at least. There'll be more peace than ever before in the Middle East. I believe that. And I believe Rubio, because he warned us what would happen a year from now if we do nothing. And like many CEOs said, I won't name him, but the greatest risk is doing nothing.
Well, Alex, let me ask you this. What if things don't go? I'm just going to use Iraq as an example. What if things don't go the way they predict and hope it goes? That, okay, maybe the mullahs fall, which would be great. I mean, who wants the mullahs in power? But it's not a democracy. It's not even a stable regime. What if Iran is broken into pieces? What if we have a civil war? And we have millions and millions of migrants pouring across the region, pouring into Europe, radical Shiite groups everywhere, civil war breaks out, anarchy. Is that going to make the Middle East more stable or more peaceful? I don't think so. Like, yeah, you're right. If it's the best case scenario, of course. Look, who doesn't want the Shah's son, the crown prince, to come back? Of course, I'd love for him to come back. But I don't know if he has enough popularity in Iran to come back. For example, the Shah's son, Pahlavi, gave an interview yesterday, and he said, the military's with me all the way. I'm like, the military's with you all the way? No one's defecting. I mean, whatever you want to say about the Iranian military, they're sticking with the Ayatollahs. So, and I remember, Alex, the Iraq war, where you had all these people claiming, oh no, Saddam Hussein leaves and I'm ready to fill his shoes. Oh no, they want me back. No, these people will support me. And they didn't have much of a constituency. So all I'm just saying, Alex, is, do we have an exit strategy? I don't see it. And do we have a post-Ayatollah strategy? I don't see it. If I saw it, I'd be a lot more confident. But right now, I don't see it. And what I don't see are people on the street rising up against the mullahs. Now, I understand bombs are dropping. I get it. But I'm not seeing the kind of opposition that I saw even 4 or 5 weeks ago. So my fear, Alex, is they may have wiped out the opposition, and now we're bombing them, and it's too little, too late. Final word to you.
Jeff, first of all, it would be morally wrong to allow these 36,000 people to die for nothing. And I believe there's more of them waiting to rise, more of them to get out of the houses when the bombing stops. But one thing is a guarantee here. What Trump is guaranteeing here, and what he's been warning Iran for the last 9 years, he will dismantle this regime militarily completely. There'll be no more missiles, no more ships, no more tanks. He will dismantle this regime completely. And that alone makes it worth the campaign and not let these 36,000 people die in vain. And there's more of them. There's millions of them. You watch.
Oh, I hope you're right. Alex, from your lips to God's ears. Alex, thank you very much for that call. Tom, red, white, and blue dynamite baby in New Jersey. Tom, I hate to do this to you. You've got 1 minute. Go, my friend.
Thank you for the red, white, and blue dynamite, baby, Jeff. Jeff, I'll be brief. Trump is President Midas. The things he's engaged with have been almost entirely wins. Time's up, Iran. You've been the head of the snake from day one. Trump has earned our support, but the day this becomes the military-industrial complex is the day he loses our support. Our exit strategy is air power, naval power only. Bibi, you got the ground, baby. And when the time's up, our naval power and our air power comes home. This is not going to be another endless war, President Trump. Don't get sucked in to the Dick Cheney, George Bush bots and the rhinos that has brought our party to a non-constitutional republic, Jeff. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's support him. and will hold his feet to the fire on the Kuhner report. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, Tom, look, I think the message that I think we can all agree on, no boots on the ground. I think Kuhner, we may disagree on other things, but on this, air power, sea power, missile power, but don't send in U.S. forces or U.S. soldiers.